Hi everyone, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to see about working with functions in Python. So under this we are going to see the following topics, that is passing parameters, returning values from the functions, and then composition. So next one, that is arguments and parameters, passing parameters. So what is mean by arguments? The values that is being passed through a function call statement are called arguments. That is, actual parameters are actual arguments. So in the previous class, we have seen calc sum of x comma y, that is a function call. Okay, so def followed by function name and then a parenthesis inside. If we pass some variables, no, if we are mentioning some variables at the end semicolon, that is indicating parameters. Okay, the values which are received in the function definition. So the function name which is started with the def keyword, that is known as function definition. Okay, so inside the parenthesis, whatever variables we are using, that is known as parameters, that is called as parameters. Okay, so the values that are being passed through a function call statement are called arguments, or actual parameters, or actual arguments, or actual variables also we will say. Then parameters means what? The values received in the function definition header. In the previous example, sum of x comma y. So that x comma y, calc sum of num1 comma num2. That num1 comma num2 are called actual parameters, actual arguments. And then x comma y, which we have used in the function definition, no, that is known as formal parameters. Okay, or parameters, we will call it as formal arguments. So the values received in the function definition or header are called parameters. So example, the arguments in Python can be, so how the arguments can be passed, that already we have seen in function call what ways, and around 5 ways we can pass the values to the formal arguments. Okay, so actual values, how it can be passed means as a literal. Okay, like a constant values. Literal means what? Constant. So cube of 4. So cube is the name of the function. Inside this parenthesis we have passed the value 4. Then like a variable we can pass. So num should be assigned with some value initially. That num is going to be passed. So num is equal to 10 or 12. So that num is going to be passed here as the argument here in the cube of function. So this is function call. So like an expression also, like num plus 1, num plus 2, like that. Cube of num plus 1, num plus 10. Like that also we can pass as like expressions, like an expression we can pass the value to the function definition. Okay, so next is parameters. Parameters in Python have to be some names. So it should be like a x comma y, like that. Some name should be mentioned for the parameters. So it is a variable to hold some incoming values. So incoming values, whatever values are returned from that is function call, that function call values are going to be copied here in the variables in the function definition or in a function header, that is only known as parameters. Okay, so here we will see function definition, that is def multiply a comma b. So a comma b is called the formal parameters. At the end colon, then print a star b. Okay, so next is function call. So multiply of a comma b, multiply of 3 comma 4. So for a and b we are passing the value 3 and 4 here. So 3 is copied to a and b, 4 is copied to b. See here, this is known as literal arguments. Both are literal constant arguments. So this is known as arguments. So in function call, this multiply function is defined here. In this definition, the parameters are variables, whatever we have used inside the parenthesis is known as formal parameters. Here only the values 3 and 4 is going to be received or copied in this place a and b. Okay, and next is p is equal to 9. Multiply p comma 5. Here 5 is a literal and p is a variable. So one variable, one literal, like that also we can pass a value to a function definition. Okay, function definition for parameters, formal parameters, we can pass the value. Next, as an expression and as a variable. One is like a variable and one is like a expression. Expression means what? Any that is literal, two literals with operator, or one literal and one variable with operator, or one or more operators also will be there in the expression. So one is like an expression, one argument is like an expression, one argument is like a variable we can pass. Okay, so in 3 ways also we can pass the value to the in a function call, we can pass the value to the formal parameters or to the function definition. So Python, it is going to support three types of formal arguments or parameters. That is in function definition, no? We need to mention positional arguments or required arguments. That is compulsorily we should pass the value for these arguments. So that is known as positional arguments or required arguments. We should not change the location or position of an argument when the value is going to be passed to this parameters, no, from a function call. Okay. Next one is default arguments. Okay. So values are going to be assigned in a default way in the definition itself. So when the function call is made, no need to pass the value for this default argument. Okay, that is the thing happening for default arguments. Next is keyword or named arguments. That means directly we can assign a value when we are creating the parameter list or arguments list in a function call, no? Directly we can assign a value here using a keyword. Okay, so keyword or named arguments we will see. So these for all these three we will see examples. Okay, positional arguments, default arguments, and keyword or named arguments. For all the three we will see one example, then you will understand in a better way. So positional or required arguments. So def check of a comma b comma c. This is in function definition at the end colon. Okay, so in function call, the same function is going to be called here with different variables, that is x, y, z. These are known as actual values or actual arguments. So here x, y, z, three are going to be passed as a variables only. All are going to be passed as a variables. Three values are passed as the variables here. Here one is passed as a literal and another two are passed as a variables. Here all the three are passed as literals. Okay, so next is, this is only known as positional or required arguments. That is ABC means for all the ABC we need to pass it here in a proper way. So next is default arguments or parameters. A parameter having a default value in the function header is known as the default parameter. So default arguments or parameters means what? A parameter which has the default value in the function header or in the function definition. So here example is def interest of principal comma time comma rate is equal to 0.10. So this is known as default value here. So this example is called as default argument or default parameter. So defaultly we are assigning the value when we are defining the function. That is in a function header itself, the parameter will be assigned with a default value. Okay, that argument is known as default argument or default parameter. So here we are calling the function interest. So 5,400, that is the principal amount, and then time 2, and then the third argument is missed here because we have already assigned with some default value in the function header. So no need to pass the value here for the third argument. Okay, so here third argument is missing because it is a default value. So here required parameter should be placed before the default parameters. That is the thing we need to understand here. Before default parameters, the required parameters compulsorily we need to pass. Okay, we need to place the required parameters should be placed before the default parameters. That is the default parameters, that is third one in a function header becomes optional in the function call. If you want to pass that value 0.10, you can pass it, or else you no need to pass the default value because it is already defined in the function header itself. Okay, so that's why here third argument, that is default argument, is missing. So with this we will end up this session.